Games and Zelenskyy-Trump meeting second episode. JD Vance is a woman in this episode. I'ma talk about JD Vance's actions in the Zelenskyy-Trump meeting specifically, and why his actions resemble that of a woman's. More specifically, his choice of words and way of talking. JD Vance pulled a lot of moves and said a lot of things that only a woman would say. And those things and remarks are really feminine and manipulative and passive-aggressive. Before I get into this episode, I want to make a correction in the last episode. In the last episode, I said that it wasn't in JD Vance's place to check Zelenskyy. And that was JD Vance overstepping. I said this was the point where everything started to fall apart. I was wrong about that comment, because the point where everything started to fall apart was actually the point right before JD Vance checked Zelenskyy, that JD Vance decided to answer the reporter's question. This was his first out-of-line action. Before this, the questions were answered only by Zelenskyy and Trump, the two presidents. There was Zelenskyy answering the goofy reporter's homo question, "Why aren't you wearing a suit?" There was Trump saying Zelenskyy has a lot of hatred towards Putin. Yada yada yada, right? When JD Vance joined in, he was trying to add to Trump's answer to the reporters. I think it was a Polish reporter. JD Vance joined in without the permission or the consent from his superior. JD Vance didn't ask Trump for permission to speak, and Trump didn't give the guy permission to speak either. Like I said yesterday, JD Vance was on about Biden's methods didn't work. Maybe it's time for diplomacy, etc. Therefore, this was the first time JD Vance was out of line, and the point where this all went to shit. It wasn't when JD Vance actually checked Zelenskyy later, when JD Vance called out Zelenskyy's quote-unquote disrespect. That wasn't his decision to make. He just skipped over Trump. Again, this goes back to JD Vance's insubordination that I mentioned in the last video. JD Vance was leading the president. That ain't respectful. WTF? Zelenskyy's people didn't join in. Not even when the argument got heated. See? Trump should fire JD Vance, because this mother effer is not playing compliant to the rules. This guy finna start a mutiny or rebellion someday. JD Vance doesn't want to play his role as the vice president. He wants to be the president. I read comments against this. Oh, why the rank matters anyway. He should be allowed to say anything he wants. IDK how to answer that. Like I said, U.S. Vice President has always been a hollow position. Vice President doesn't have real power. Second, is that, according to the whole ranks don't matter thing, then why didn't everyone join in? Why didn't Secretary of State's Marco Rubio join in? Why didn't the Secretary Def Pete Hegseth join in the conversation? What if a Fox News reporter joined in? That would have been a proper group beatdown. See? This will be ridiculous if anyone can just join in the conversation. That's chaos. JD Vance's choice of words resembles that of women's. Let's see. JD Vance first started off with disrespectful, then ungrateful, then have you ever said thank you since you arrived? Don't those sound incredibly familiar? Aren't those the words the woman would say when she doesn't like a guy hollering at her? Or when a woman turns down a man's advances? Or in more game lingo, reject. Correct? When a woman doesn't like the guy who's hollering at her. When the woman doesn't find the guy attractive. When the woman has low to no interest in the guy. Those are the same lingos they use. Mr. Locario says stuff like, be yourself, say what you want to say, be straightforward, be honest, be clear with your intentions when talking or first hollering at a woman. Don't be around the bush. Don't try to lie to the woman. Don't say I want a long-term relationship. Like, damn, girl, those hips look crazy in them tight jeans. I'd like to rip those off of you in bed, when you and I Netflixing and chilling. Then, there'll be some dude objects. You can't do that, Mr. Locario. That'll turn a woman off. Nah, Mr. Locario, she ain't gonna go for that. No, Mr. Locario, that's disrespectful to women. Then Mr. Locario says that, the words ain't the problem, okay? If the woman says, "Oh, that's so disrespectful," or "Oh, that's so gross," or "That's so creepy and disgusting," or "Oh my God, that's so offensive," or "That's so misogynistic," if she says those things, that means she don't like you. If a woman likes you, it doesn't matter what you say or not say to her. She's using the shaming tactics on you. That just means she ain't interested in you. She just doesn't find you attractive. So just let her go. You just leave the situation and move on to other bitches. It's a form of mind manipulation and gaslighting that women use to shame you guys for doing a perfectly normal thing. So, don't fall into that. That just means that she has low to no interest. So don't try to change her mind or keep talking to her. Just move on to other women. There are so many other women out there. It's much easier to deal with those women who are interested in you. The last one is the most shocking, disgusting, hilarious, and outrageous. And I am not the first one that found out about it, so props and credits to that first commenter. This commenter said some real shit and inspired me. I had the same thoughts, but I just wasn't able to actualize it. I couldn't be very descriptive about it. Have you ever said thank you? You are not grateful. That sounds like a wife or GF would say when she's arguing with her BF and husband. LOL. Ain't it? Those are something that women would say in an argument with their men, whether it's their BFs or husbands. Doesn't this sound like the situations that Mr. Locario often critiques? Mr. Locario made lots of these videos about those same situations where women and men are arguing over some shit in the video. One example would be which person pays the bills, and which one does the chores or wash the dishes or do the laundry or cleans the place. You know, the situations where the men and women would bicker about some shit. Like women say, "When are you ever home?" or "When do you ask about how I feel?" Or "It's all me carrying this home." Yada yada yada. The women are using shaming tactics. They are very passive-aggressive. When a woman said that to a man, it just means that, as Mr. Locario says, she ain't like you, she ain't respecting you, she ain't following your lead, etc. You should just charge this woman to the game. JD Vance just used those exact same words. Ain't they the same or what? See? Do y'all see my point? JD Vance used many of the same words the women would use, and many of the tactics women would use in an argument. So, back to JD Vance. IDK why this guy chose to use those words and talking methods. JD Vance chose to become a woman in front of Zelensky. Ain't Ukraine in a bad position? Ain't Ukraine very, very weak? Ain't USA supposed to be the most powerful in the world and in the history of humans? So why the hell would he choose those women words and women shaming tactics when talking to Zelensky? USA has all the power, right? Maybe Zelensky was more of a real man than JD Vance? Maybe JD Vance found that he did something wrong or felt that he was not in the right. Then he turned his embarrassment into anger? IDK, but he sure looked like a woman. Y'all see what I am talking about? That's why I say JD Vance was behaving like a woman in that press conference. Those words, disrespectful, ungrateful, when have you said thank you, are the same that women use dealing with men that they don't like or don't respect. And JD Vance used the same shaming tactics that the women use in those situations. So, what does that make JD Vance? Not a man, but a woman. Again, this nigga needs to be fired, ASAP.